we recently talked about technique and what is technique and what makes technique good and all of that. And one of the things that we talked about briefly was the idea that aesthetics aren't the whole picture, and most of us intuitively know that, but a lot of people get fooled by aesthetics, and this is a very important point. Humans, because of our cognitive capacity and our technological capacities and all that, humans are very good at cheating aesthetics. Now, there are some very, very obvious things. Very obvious things are like the makeup that women wear, right? Things like red lipstick and blush or rouge or something like that. That is actually designed to simulate blood flushing when they become aroused. That's all that is. And the reason that it is so almost universal that people fall for that is because that is kind of hardwired into us because of the mating instinct, right? We see this in the fitness world, right? How many bodybuilders are weaker than they appear versus, say, powerlifters or strongmen, right? And why do strongmen not look like bodybuilders? Well, so strongmen and powerlifters often have, like the strongest guys typically have the most muscle mass. However, they tend not to be focused on aesthetics, so they don't do things like cutting down to a lower weight, because mass moves mass, and by cutting down to a lower weight class, they actually will somewhat change their leverages and change their ability to move mass around and whatnot. But also there are side effects of like hard dieting that actually kind of deplete your energy, especially into very low body fat levels. You kind of deplete your energy and your ability to perform. So like there is such thing as too low a body fat, and just as there's definitely such a thing as too high a body fat. And because bodybuilding is a very much so an aesthetic art and not a performance art, it is based around making the body look a certain way. It is around sculpting the body to develop the musculature with certain ideas of symmetry and development and whatnot. Now look, if you compare a bodybuilder to a normal person, they are still going to be very strong. Most of these guys do not get muscles that big without being able to lift hundreds of pounds. They are just not proportionally, for their weight, as strong as people who specialize in strength. And that's the key difference there, right? So again, we are very good at cheating aesthetics. We do this with our clothing as well, right? We do this with things like, slimming colors or patterns if we're worried about looking too small, looking too large, right? If people are short, they will wear shoes with lifts in them or heels or whatever. And sometimes they don't go exaggerated, right? They're not wearing 7-inch leather heels like Kiss, but they might actually be wearing something with a heel just to give them that extra inch of height. People do stuff to fool the aesthetics all the time. And we see this in martial arts a lot. People get an idea of what a technique is supposed to look like. They get an idea of, oh, if I make my thing look like this thing that I saw somebody else do who performed very well, then I will have the thing down. The problem is that recreating an aesthetic that somebody else performed kind of misses, right? Because here's the thing, right? Technique is extraordinarily contextual. It depends on conditions and consequences, and you are not that person. You are not operating in the same space as them, at the same time as them. You are not made of the same atoms or the same energy as them. And the conditions for you to do something exactly in the same aesthetic fashion as they did are very unlikely to be met. In fact, we know that even professional athletes who do repetitive tasks have a significant amount of variation in their tasks. And that is a pretty important thing to understand, right? The success of our techniques, the success of our skill, of our art, is based on being able to apply principles. And this is something Wing Chun people talk about all the time, and then they never practice. And this goes for other martial arts too, but I cannot count to you how many times I've heard Wing Chun people say, we're a principle-based art, and then here's this technique, here's this technique. Where's the principle? You're just repeating techniques. Success and failure are determined on being able to meet the conditions with your skill, being able to read the conditions, have a robust decision-making apparatus that allows you to select the right tool for the job to get the outcome you want. Sometimes that will look extraordinarily similar, and to an unskilled person, or even to a lower skilled person, may look like the same technique. But if you were to look at it like a scientist, you would see particularly different joint angles and energy and positioning and all sorts of things like that, right? There are so many variables that go in that will make something better or worse. And that's why everything has to be, look, I talked about this years ago, right? Everything has to be built around the idea of a margin of error. You cannot have a single static quantity of this is good technique and everything else is bad. That doesn't work out. And this is part of why we need to practice everything with a certain sort of decision making, right? One of the terms that gets thrown around is aliveness. Another one of the terms gets thrown around is pressure testing. A lot of people just say you need to spar all the time. There are a lot of drills and training games that afford you an ability to create decision making in a robust environment, but in a much smaller picture, a portion of the robust environment. So rather than a component view, kind of a slice of the cake, right? To quote Rob Gray. And the idea is that you have a certain amount of adaptability and ability to vary things because there's a margin for variation, right? Even margin of error isn't even the right term for this, is margin of variation. And that's something important to remember, right? Aesthetics just do not do the job. I do think aesthetics are important, right? Aesthetics, because we are very much perceptual beings. Like from an evolutionary standpoint, our ability to see and hear and taste and touch are all information gathering things about the world. And it is very difficult for us to take in the whole picture, right? I mean, I don't remember what the count is, but I mean, we're talking about like millions of bits of information are bombarded at us every single second of every single day. We cannot possibly parse all of that, especially not cognitively. But we take in things as a whole, sensory first, cognitive second, right? Really, really deeply undercutting that argument, but for the sake of argument for now. And we have to be able to look past the aesthetics. The aesthetics just give us a snapshot of what am I looking at, right? It kind of gives us the initial yes or no, pass or fail. Is this worth investigating or not? Is this a threat or not? Is this good or not? That kind of thing. And so when we use aesthetics, we should be using aesthetics appropriately, right? But they always like to say form follows function. And that literally is saying aesthetics follow function. You have to make things work, right? I should have worn the other shirt, the make it work, make it right, make it pretty. Aesthetics are important. Aesthetics are very important. You want things to be recognizable in a way that will attract the right things and repel the right things. Aesthetics need to be taken into account. They are very, very important. However, if we're using aesthetics to lie about our ability, to lie about our status, what we are then doing is creating problems for ourselves downstream that are just going to manifest in all sorts of nasty ways because we didn't actually fulfill what those aesthetics were promising, right? Aesthetics are kind of a promise or an indicator of something more. And if that something more isn't there, then we are allowing ourselves to be fooled or to fool others, become liars, call things into question, jeopardize relationships, commit to failure, those kind of things, right? So aesthetics are important, but aesthetics come last. Aesthetics always come last because things have to be functional and true and honest and representative of reality first, and aesthetics second. All right, I'm done ranting. I will talk to you guys later. Good journey. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share. Check us out on our other socials, and please head over to blacksunboxing.com to get a little more info, including how to contact us. Furthermore, if you are in the Phoenix area, please feel free to stop in, say hi, join in for a class, whatever. Also, if you ever see us cite sources or just for additional content, please check out our Substack. That is where we put all of the sources we use in our videos and is a major part of this. Plus, it serves as a membership platform for long distance learning and for people who would like to support us but aren't local. We would greatly appreciate it if you signed up. Even just the free membership helps us out a lot. All right, I will see you guys in the next video. Good journey.